Hey guys, I've got something special for you this evening. I've also got a really big announcement, and that'll be coming up in a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to start off with sharing a little bit about some of my background, one of the things I am passionate about, and one of the reasons why I'm passionate about this. Because I think the restoration of the kingdom is absolutely bound up in, wrapped up in our participation in some specific things. And so I want you to bear with me. Some of you guys are going to be challenged, and that's a good thing. Certainly, I welcome pushback. If you've got information that I need that maybe I'm not seeing something, I welcome pushback. If not, maybe what we need to do is we need to get together, put our heads together, and get before the Most High and figure out what we need to be doing that will accelerate and, in many ways, bless the Most High and accelerate the coming of the kingdom. So let's buckle our seatbelts and let's get ready for a really good time. I've got some cool stuff for you. All right, so a lot of you probably are not familiar with the fact that I have led multiple trips to Israel. Have been multiple times, have led multiple times, and I've done it on the cheap. We've managed to do it in a way that is very inexpensive. So I've been to Israel, or my wife and I, along with all of our sons at one point or another, as well as others in our fellowship and in the relationships that we have around us, have been to Israel for a number of different reasons, always at feast time. And so I want to show you a couple real quick clips and some pictures just to kind of whet your appetite and to give you an idea of what I am talking about. But we are going to go to Scripture, and I want you to understand that the Most High says, "Come to me." He doesn't say, "I'm coming out to you." He says, "Come to me." And we're going to talk about this a little bit because I know some people are very challenged by this for different reasons. And I want to address some of those reasons, whether it be finances, whether you're concerned with who happens to be in the land or not in the land, whether or not some people have been recognized and others haven't been recognized, whether or not everybody's on the same page, all these different things. So we'll talk about some of that in just a minute. I want you to be patient. But here's what I did. On about my first or second trip to Israel, I was going for some specific conferences. I spoke at the second Congress that I went to. But my purpose for going primarily was sort of ambassadorial role. I was there to make friends, meet people, see the land, get to know. Wasn't full tourist, but really just kind of trying to get a feel for what I was learning and understanding in Scripture. And I was distressed when I was there by the amount of trash on the ground. A lot of places, and I think it largely has to do with partly just a lack of pride in the land by some elements, not all, and then also by a lot of immigrants that have come from third world countries. Now, I grew up in a third world country. Many of you are aware of the fact that I grew up in South America. I speak some Spanish, and it was very common just to throw the trash right out the window. It's not the way we do things here in the U.S., but we also had the whole litter campaign in the 70s and 80s to try to eliminate that in this country, right? Where that was very normal in this country as well. So what I did, along with some friends who shared the vision that I had, we decided that we would pray and see if the Father would open a door for us to take a group to Israel and be able to do it on $50 a day. $50 a day. And include not just lodging, but also 2 meals, breakfast and dinner. And the deal was that if they would come, we would make arrangements for a 14 or a 16-day trip. And during that time frame, they would give us 4 days wherein they would pick up trash as a testimony to any who wanted to stop and have a conversation, but simply a testimony that we love the King and we love the land, and our desire is to see the restoration of his kingdom. And, that was our original vision. And we thought, this is impossible. Israel on $50 a day with meals and lodging? You've got to be kidding me. And yet that's exactly what worked out. It worked out incredibly well. In fact, ultimately, we ended up finding ways to do this. I'll talk about a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. But we found ways to do this. And then everybody, those who wanted to, could rent a car or use public transportation the other days and go wherever they want, tour whatever they wanted, do whatever they wanted while they were in the land. But they just had to give us those 4 days. Now, I established an organization that has not been active since 2019. We were preparing to go up for Passover 2020, and then, of course, the whole COVID thing broke out, and then it was not put back together. I have not yet felt the Father tell me to put this back together, but I want to show you that we've got a web page up that has literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures in our gallery. And we've got a lot of pictures from Passover 2019 and then Sukkot 18 and 19. And the name of the organization is Ani Yosef. I am Joseph. I am Joseph. And and the whole concept was to put a servant's face on Ephraim. And this all comes together, so stick with me here. But in the process, we just took lots and lots of pictures and lots of interesting things that we saw and people that were with us. We had people from all over the world. We've on our teams, we've had people from South Africa, Jordan, Israel, Germany, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, the United States, Canada, Great Britain, New Zealand. I'm trying to think where else. And we've had people of all backgrounds, white, brown, yellow, black, doesn't matter. I really don't give a rip about people's skin color, okay? What we had was people who love the Most High, who walk in his ways and believe themselves to be Israelites. Okay, so a lot of that going on, and I want to scroll through this just a little bit, just so you get an idea. I would love for you to this picture right here. Love this picture right here. This is my good friend Semak and myself in Givat Yarim, and he came and broke bread with us. He's a Yemenite Jew who has been in, I guess, his father, and I'll show you him in another picture here in a few minutes. But lots and lots of pictures, and we got to participate in a lot of different things. We got to visit a lot of things. We literally, there was a winery where one end of the winery, they had 2 big rooms, and they let the guys sleep in one, gals sleep in the other one. We had a big kitchen. We cooked and had amazing food, and went out in these bright yellow T-shirts, and picked up trash for 4 days, and the rest of the time had a chance to just go tour, had a chance to dance, had a chance to visit all parts of not just Jerusalem, but all over the city. Brothers and sisters from all over the United States. In this case, from Alabama, is thinking about here. James Block, musician, a Canadian in Israel who lives in the land, who's got wonderful music. You're familiar with him. Doing some tours in the old city, and just having all of these wonderful. This is a brother from, I want to say from Arkansas, maybe. I don't remember. Germany, here we go, represented right here. We've got the Netherlands, Germany, the United States, South Africa, and more. And, just a wonderful opportunity to spend time with brothers and sisters who love the King, who love the kingdom, who desire to see the restoration of Kol Israel. And so What I want to do is I want to show you, I want to play you real quick a couple clips, a couple video clips, because one of these particularly you're going to recognize immediately. Let me find it, and I've got thousands of pictures, I really do. Let's see, let's try this one right here. Okay, you're immediately going to recognize the music. And the backstory for this is that we were invited to Simchat Torah, which is the last day of the Torah. It was a big party in the Yemenite community at the synagogue, at the shul there. And we were given the opportunity to participate, to observe, to sing, to dance. The women dance with the women, the men dance with the men. And it's a big party that celebrates the Torah, Simchat Torah, joy in the Torah. And traditionally, all the Torah scrolls are brought out of the ark, and everybody who is clean at the time can dance with the Torah scroll, can take it and literally dance with it. And it's as close as you can get to dancing with the king, right? A lot of times we don't understand some of the traditions behind these things, but wonderful. Anyway, as some music was playing, there was a guy that was sort of the MC and making things happen, and he had a drum set up, and I walked over and I said, "Hey, my son plays the drums. Can he play?" He was like, "Sure." And this is what happened, okay? And this is my son, impromptu drumming. Just invited into the middle of the party. See the dancing with the scrolls on the side? In a minute, the MC is going to do a glam with the camera, and then he's going to pull up an older gentleman, one of the patriarchs in the community there, who originally came from Yemen in 1956-ish. These are all, almost all Jews from Yemen. Of course, you recognize the music. Since then, we have found the music, found the actual band. Now, this gentleman right here is David Ben Aharon, who is originally from Yemen and came with the Yemenite settlers who returned to the land in about 1956. I'll show you another video here so that you can see some of the dancing that was going on. Traditionally, again, men dance with men, women with women. Here we go. Traditional Yemenite dance. See the ladies in the background in a dance circle. Something special about being in this place. Now, this is outside of Jerusalem, but being here with those who love the Torah. In fact, you see Kelly in the bright yellow in the background there in the dance circle, dancing with the ladies. That's my wife. All right. Let me see if I can pull up another one here real quick of just the large dance circles. And here, for example, some of the ladies in traditional Yemenite dance with some of our ladies just pulled in and just dancing with them. Very warm community. And again, the Torah scrolls out dancing. is one with our group who came from the Netherlands. She and her husband have been walking Torah for a decade or maybe two, from an established community there that's been doing walking Torah for a long, long time. Lots and lots of pictures, but here's the deal. Why am I talking about this? Okay, why am I talking about this? Scripture tells us that we are to go up. Now, I know that there are a lot of people out there that may not be happy with Jerusalem, may not be happy with Israel, may not be happy with what's there, but I would remind you that Yeshua went to the temple and the legitimate priesthood was not there, but he went up because the Torah says to go up. I would remind you that the Ark of the Covenant probably wasn't there, but the Messiah was. And so I want to run through some scriptures here, and I want to challenge you a little bit to stop and think. And then I want to talk about maybe ways that some things that we should be doing, some things that we should think about doing very seriously as the people of Yah out in the diaspora, and how we can be ambassadors and a light. This right here, a little passage of scripture starting in Exodus chapter 23. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened, as I commanded in the time of the appointment of the month of Abib, for in it thou camest out of Mitzrayim. This is, I am going to go to the NASB. It's a little easier to read. Continuing in verse 16, you shall also observe the feast of harvest of first fruits for all your labors, that you sow the field, and the feast of ingathering. It says 3 times a year all your males shall appear before Adonai Yahweh. All your males shall appear before Adonai Yahweh. Now, we are out in diaspora, and that's a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do. And so let's go to Exodus chapter 34. And I'm going to make this point a couple times. I want you to stick with me here. Okay? Verses 22 through 24 in Exodus 34. It says, you shall celebrate the Feast of Weeks. That is the first fruits of the wheat gathering, the Feast of Ingathering at the turn of the year. 3 times a year, all your males are to appear before Adonai Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel. And he continues, he says, for I will drive out the nations before you and enlarge your borders, and no man shall covet your land when you go up 3 times a year to appear before Yahweh your Elohim. You understand that there are blessings that come with obedience to this command. There are blessings that come to obedience with this command. But Pete, it's so expensive. Well, I just told you that we can try to make it less expensive. But Pete, we can't all go. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 16 through 19 seem to indicate that at least in the nations, those of the nations can send representatives. It seems to me like we should be able to do that at this time until we are better prepared or the Father restores us, right? Should we not be going up or sending representatives or helping to send people? Should not each community send 2 elders or two recognized leading men in the community to go up, or a couple men and their wives to go up? Should not every fellowship be sending a man or 2? Think about it. You could draw by lottery or draw by lot. You could have where everybody's contributing to help send somebody to the feast at Passover and Sukkot. Let's say you can't make Shavuot. It's a quick turnaround. Now, I've got a friend that has taken away excuses because about 10 years ago, he read these verses and he said, Abba Yah, if this is your will, then you've got to provide the means. And he's getting ready to go up for the 30th time, and he's taking his wife with him, and his job has blessed him and blessed him and blessed him. They've given him the religious freedom, the holidays that he needs to go. They've increased his pay to allow him to go, and he goes 3 times a year to Jerusalem at the feasts, and he's there for the whole feast every time. Shavuot, he typically goes by himself because that's a 2-day deal, and so he flies in on Friday afternoon and flies out on Monday, so that he's there for Shabbat and Yom Rishon, right? The day of Shavuot, right? But the thing is do we believe what the Father says here? Let me take you to another passage of Scripture. This is something that we really need to wrap our minds around, brothers and sisters. I'm telling you. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. You're familiar with this passage. Let's look at Deuteronomy 16, verses 13 through 17. You shall celebrate the Feast of Booths 7 days after you have gathered in from your threshing floor and your wine vat, and you shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter and your male and female servants and the Levites and strangers and the orphans and the widows who are in your towns. Now listen to this. I know some of y'all, you do this. You do this where you are, and that's a good thing, okay? But let's look and see what this says. 7 days you shall celebrate a feast to Yahweh your Elohim in the place which Yahweh chooses. In the place which Yahweh chooses. He doesn't say celebrate it in the place that you choose. He says celebrate it in the place which Yahweh chooses, because Yahweh your Elohim will bless you. This brings blessing. Yahweh your Elohim will bless you and all your produce and all the work of your hands, so that you will be altogether joyful. And he continues, 3 times a year all your males shall appear before Yahweh in the place he chooses, at the Feast of Unleavened, at the Feast of Weeks, at the Feast of Booths, and they shall not appear empty-handed. They shall not appear empty-handed. Listen to me, brothers and sisters. We need to be sending people up. We need to be sending people up. We need to be going. We need to be finding ways to be represented at the feasts in the land. I know. Some of you are saying, but Pete, you don't understand. You don't understand who's there or what they've done or how they've messed up this, that, or the other thing. And I would ask you, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, where were you? Where were you 10 or 15, 20 years ago? Where were your people 30 years ago? Most of us, our families don't even walk with us. And yet here, we've got people who keep the Torah imperfectly. Maybe we don't like the way they do it. Maybe we don't like some of the things or associations or what have you. But see, here's the deal. Understand, it's not your job. It's not my job to straighten them out. If we understand 2 brides, if we understand 2 houses, it's the master's responsibility to fix things with each of the ladies. It's not the lady's job to try to fix things with each other. That's how you get this right here. Our job is to do what he asks us to do. What does he say to do? 3 times a year, all your males. Let me take you to another passage of Scripture, okay? Let's say Deuteronomy chapter 14. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 14, and let's look at verses 22 through 27, okay? You shall surely tithe all the produce from what you sow, from what comes out of the field every year. You shall eat in the presence of Yahweh your Elohim at the place where he chooses to establish his name. This isn't Pete Rambo talking to you. This is the word of the Most High. You shall eat in his presence at the place where he chooses to establish his name. The tithe of your grain, your new wine, your oil, the firstborn of your herd, your flocks, so that you may learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim always. Listen to me. For some of you guys, your tithe, you don't understand that part of your tithe is to pay for. You're supposed to be saving your tithe. A portion of that is specifically to use for going up to the feast. Particularly if you're going to the land, if you're going to the place where he put his name. Now understand, he didn't put his name on a house. We're going to go there in just a second. He put his name on a place, and he says his name is in that place forever. I'm going to show that to you in just a second. He says, if the distance is so great for you that you're not able to bring the tithe, since the place where Yahweh your Elohim chooses to set his name is too far away from where Yahweh your Elohim blesses you, then you shall exchange it for money and bind the money in your hand and go to the place where Yahweh chooses. The place where Yahweh your Elohim chooses. Where is the place that he chooses? Has he changed the place that he chooses? You may spend the money for whatever your heart desires, for oxen, sheep, wine, strong drink, or whatever your heart desires, and there you shall eat in the presence of Yahweh your Elohim and rejoice, you and your household. This is taking your family. And you shall not neglect the Levite who is in your town, for he has no portion or inheritance among you. Do we understand that he says 3 times a year the males are to go to the place that he chooses and the place that he sets his name and says that's where you're to go? Now, for 369 years it was at Shiloh, and that's an amazing archaeological dig to go to and to enjoy and see up in Ephraimite territory. I believe it's Ephraimite territory in central Israel. But later on, he specifically said where he put his name. Let's go to Chronicles chapter 7, verses 11 through 16. Now, I want you to recognize, y'all know these verses because we hear 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14 all the time. But listen to the rest of this passage, and then we need to look at the passage actually that comes before it. Thus Shlomo finished the house of Yahweh in the king's palace and successfully completed all that he had planned on doing in the house of Yahweh and his palace. Then Yahweh appeared to Shlomo at night and said to him, I have heard your prayers and have chosen this place for myself as a house of sacrifice. He's not talking just about the temple. The whole place. It is Zion. It is his holy hill. Now, yes, we can have a discussion about where the temple actually stood. I am of the opinion that it might not be where most people believe that it is. I actually believe that it was probably in Yair David, which is about 600 meters south of the platform that is there. According to Josephus, that's where it was, about 600 meters south, connected by a bridge. According to Micah, the area where the temple was would be completely torn down. It would be a plowed field and then would be forested. And there are aerial pictures of Jerusalem in the early 1900s. You know, aerial photography was just becoming a thing. We could fly and all that kind of good stuff. 1920s maybe. Aerial shots just south of what is called the Temple Mount. And it's olive groves and wooded area. It's not a city there. And it's currently being excavated today. I'm not going to get sidetracked on that discussion, but the point is, where did Yahweh set his name? Let's continue reading here. If I shut up the heavens so there's no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among the people, and my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sins. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to prayer in this place. This next verse is going to roll you. It's going to roll you. For now I have chosen and consecrated this house that my name may be there until the Romans get there. Until it gets run over by the Ottoman Empire. Until others come along that you don't agree with and observe maybe differently than you observe. No, it says, "For now I have chosen and consecrated this house that my name may be there forever." Now, if you believe the Torah is forever, if you believe his promises are forever, if you believe all the other olam blessings in Scripture, you need to look at this one right here, because he says, "My eyes and my heart will be there perpetually, continually, forever. As for you, if you walk before me as your father David walked, even to do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my ordinances, then I will establish my royal throne as I covenanted with your father David." And of course, we know what happened to Shlomo. We know that ultimately, it tells us right in here that if they forsake the statutes and ordinances, he would tear down the house and it would become a byword. But he doesn't say he would remove his name. He doesn't say, "Oh, now that the house is gone, you don't have to go. All of those commandments are done away with." What does he say? He says right here that my name may be there forever. And he says, "Come up," 3 times per year. I want to take you to the previous chapter, 2 Chronicles chapter 16. I want to start around verse 18. And there's a long passage. I want you to go read it when you have time. Sit down and prayerfully read through this whole chapter. But I want to call something, I want to point something out very important here. This is Shlomo praying to the Father, and the Father answering, right? But in this prayer, multiple times in regard to this house that he built, he says that multiple times, I want to say in this passage, I've got my Bible over here open because I've got all this highlighted and underlined, and I've looked at this for years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 8 places. At least 8 places in here. It talks about, when one of us or any of his servants turn and pray toward this place. We turn and look to where the king is, or where his presence remains, even if it is distressed. Now, yes, I understand some of you are saying, "But Pete, we're the temple." And we are. But that doesn't displace the fact that that is his place. And he says he will rebuild there. He will restore us there. Pray. He says, "Listen to the supplications of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Hear from your dwelling place, from heaven. Hear and forgive." And it says this multiple times in this chapter. It comes back to this. "If your people Israel are defeated before an enemy because they sinned against you, and they return and confess and pray and make supplication before you, then hear from heaven and forgive." Right? When the heavens are shut up and there's no rain because they've sinned against you, and they pray toward this place and confess your name and turn from their sin, then you will hear in heaven and forgive their sin. It's in this passage at least 6 or 7 times. I've got so much highlight over here. I didn't think to count before I started this. But he says that place is important to him. That place will be restored. Isaiah chapter 2, the Torah will go forth from Jerusalem, and the law from Zion. That's the place. I want to encourage you guys. I want to challenge you. Brothers, we need to be going up. We need to be sending representation. If you've got questions how to do it on the cheap, I can give you a couple pointers. I'm happy to help you. It helps if you can make some contacts in the land. Okay? And that comes with being committed to going to the land and learning and meeting people. What's really cool is every week-long feast, on the Shabbat in the middle of the feast, or the latter part of the feast, at 2 p.m. at Independence Park in Jerusalem, Israelites from around the world gather. We know that's the place that everybody's going to be, so we can exchange numbers, we can exchange contacts, we can connect this guy with this guy, we can connect that person with that person. We can say, hey, brother, I haven't seen you in a year or 2 years. It's so good to hug your neck. And know all of these different connections around the world are seeking the same thing as we seek to come together as the people of Yah. And you look around that park, there's not a color distinction. There's not a nationality or ethnic distinction. The only thing that binds us and unites us is the Torah and the Messiah. Where was Yeshua? In the temple at the feasts. If the temple's not there, we can be close. We can get there. We can honor him and we can represent our king. And we can build bridges and we can love our brother. I want to challenge you. So this is going on a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and give you, of course you've already figured it out, the big announcement. We're going back. I have not been to Jerusalem since Sukkot 2019, Pesach 2020. We were days away from getting our, we already had our plane tickets. We were days away from getting ready to pack. And they shut down the airlines, and then for multiple years we were unable to go. We're going back. We're going to be there from we'll fly out the 26th and come back the 8th of October. So we'll be there for about 12 or 13 days, 12 days, something like that. How do you keep it cheap, Pete? Well, one of the things is several of us traveling together and finding deals on Airbnbs that are not in the high rent district. And then renting a car. The cars can be expensive, but renting a car so that we can drive and see and go and do and be. And we're making connections. I've already connected with people that I know in the land. I'm going to connect with a few more, so we'll have a chance to have a Rev Shabbat dinner in Jerusalem with a Jewish family that loves those of the nations that are coming up. And so we'll have a Shabbat dinner right there in Jerusalem. And it'll be a wonderful opportunity just to visit, just to share some love, to be a light, not to go and try to proselytize or to make changes or try to tell them what they're doing wrong or what you think needs to be fixed. Just to be there. There's something special about early in the morning, the cool of the day, getting out and walking in the old city and hearing the echo of your shoes or clogs on the limestone as you walk through. There's something way cool about being able to get out into the countryside and walk in the hills and take your shofar and hear it echo off of the next hill, to go stand at the top of Azekah and look into the valley where David faced off against Goliath, to go to Shiloh, and there have been so many broken pottery shards that they don't even bother picking them up. Because, of course, after you eat on a clay dish with a feast, you break the dish. And they did it for 369 years, and I've got handfuls of pottery. My wife has a necklace that I made with a piece of pottery. Just these shards that, other than that, they just lay in the dirt. The opportunity to walk in the olive groves at Har Bracha on the Mount of Blessing, where there's a winery established bringing back the grapevines from Europe that were originally taken by the Romans when they destroyed the land. And now with those very vines whose rootstock goes back originally to Israel thousands of years ago, that are winning wine competitions in Europe. And to be able to buy a bottle of wine and to take it back and sip it and enjoy it. It's amazing to go dip your feet into the Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee. To be able to skip a stone across the waters there when it's not tempestuous, or to drive around the south end and up onto the Golan, and to go to the Peace Overlook and look down on the Sea of Galilee and realize, oh my goodness, this thing's so small. I remember one time we stood up there and we watched a thunderstorm roll across the sea like a crazy, just this giant rolling cigar of a storm that rolled across there. And then it whipped 500 feet up to where we were overlooking it, and we got torrentially rained on. And I suddenly realized what it was like when the disciples were in the boat and they were terrified for their lives, because that was a storm like I've never seen. And it just out of nowhere came and rolled across the lake and just pummeled us. Or to be up in the Katsrin area and then climb down the walk and go out into Gamla, which is probably where Yeshua was born and raised, in Gamla, the Masada of the north. Or to spend time in parts of Tiberias or Capernaum. Or to go up to Tel Dan. Did this the first time, we will again this time go up to Tel Dan, where the idol was set up by Jeroboam, the golden calf. And we will again go up to where the archaeological dig is, and there is an outline of where the altar was, the fake or the false altar. And we will again spit on it, turn our backs to it, face Jerusalem, confess the sins of our fathers. Leviticus chapter 26, I think, 40 to 45. Go read it. And then we will sing the Shema and the Mika Mocha. Brothers, you need to be going up. I plead with you to start thinking seriously about it. Make plans now for next Passover. If somebody else is going up and you want to have them represent you, help them out. Find somebody in your fellowship who wants to go. Help them out. Figure out how to do it. Contact me. I'll be glad to give you information on how we go about doing it to keep it inexpensive as best we can. We cook most of our own meals. We don't do a lot of eating out. We don't do expensive tours. We don't ride tour buses. Plane ticket's the most expensive part. Car might be the second most because the insurance is what gets you. But if you can pack 4, 5, 6 people in a car, man, share the fuel costs, be smart about where and when you travel and what you're going to see, make some plans ahead, and go do it. Don't get caught in the tourist traps. Go be in the land, but also get the land in you. Eat the produce, eat the fruit of the land, eat the dates and the mangoes and the oranges and the pomegranates, the lamb and the beef. I would encourage you. And I know for some of you, this is challenging stuff. I hope I rocked your world. I hope I challenge you to the point that you hold yourself and suddenly feel like you've been punched in the gut. Yes, you may not like who's there, but the Father does, because we know that Scripture says that at least a third and maybe a half of Jerusalem is saved. They may need cleaning up, but so does all of Ephraim and all the crazy. They may not recognize all of their brothers like they should. I want to do a video because it was terribly distressing to me to find some of internal Israel, some of the prejudice against different groups of people, and yet Judah and Israel, the house of Israel, were scattered in all directions. Read the book of Acts. Acts chapter 2 tells us that they went in all directions. It names Libya and Egypt and Cush and Ethiopia. But it also names all the places up north of Turkey and places all around the Mediterranean that got pushed into Europe. Israelites went in every direction, and today they're every color. It's not about one skin tone or one, about how much of this, that, or the other you got in your skin. It's not. It has nothing to do with that. And I plead with you on that. But I love you guys, and I do. I want to do a good video that traces the roots of how the house of Israel and the house of Judah wound up with remnants in Africa and in the Iberian Peninsula and in Great Britain. Some of y'all aren't aware of the fact that the first slaves brought to the Americas were Irish. 10 years before any African slaves made it to this country or made it to the Western Hemisphere. 10 years before that, they were rounding up Irishmen, teenagers and children, and shipping them off to the sugar plantations in Central and South America. Yeah. What most people also don't know is that the Irish, under Saint Patrick, were Torah keepers. Patrick was a Sabbath-keeping, feast-observing, clean-eating Torah keeper. And the Irish, the Celts particularly, and I guess that would be some of the Scots, were polygynous Torah keepers in the 400s and the 300s, and there's evidence documenting that. We need to understand that we have brothers from every tribe, tongue, and nation, and we need to start finding ways to bind together and to walk in the ways of the King. I want to wrap up. I wasn't planning on going here, but this is probably a good wrap up. Deuteronomy chapter 30. Oh, look, it's right there in my queue. Deuteronomy chapter 30. And we're going to wrap up with the first few verses of Deuteronomy chapter 30. It didn't go. There it goes. Okay. So it shall be when all these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I set before you. It says, and you call them to mind in the nations where Yahweh your Elohim has banished you. See, this is what's going on right now. We're calling these to mind. And you return to Yahweh your Elohim and obey him with all your heart and soul according to just the commandments that we like. Or just the commandments that don't make us actually go up to Jerusalem. He says, with all that I command you today, then Yahweh will restore you from your captivity. You want restoration from captivity? One of the things we need to be doing is going up to Jerusalem, sending representatives, showing our love to the King by going to his place. Yahweh will restore you from captivity and have compassion on you and will gather you again from all the peoples where Yahweh your Elohim has scattered you. This comes when we're being obedient. If your outcasts are at the end of the earth, technically it says sky, and this is the phrase that Yeshua in Matthew chapter 24 cites when he talks about gathering the elect from the four corners of the sky. Right here is what he's doing. He's talking about Deuteronomy chapter 30. That's a bonus for you. If your outcasts are at the ends of the sky, from there Yahweh your Elohim will gather you, and from there he will bring you back. Listen, a little more. Yahweh your Elohim will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And he will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers. Moreover, Yahweh your Elohim will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants to love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and all your soul, so that you may live. There's much more in this chapter, but the point, I would remind you, is that we're called to obedience in the nations, out here where we are, doing everything that we can here and now according to his Torah, looking in expectation to him honoring what he says right here. And I just realized I don't have that up on the screen. It's Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 1 through 6 is what I read. And we need to be understanding that we need to obey in every way that we can. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 16 through 19 talks about the nations coming up, sending representatives or they don't get rain. We need to be going up and sending representatives until such times as he brings us back to the land. So I challenge you. I love you guys. And I know this is a tough message. Some of you guys are gonna have to wrestle with this one. Call me. Reach out to me. I want to have this conversation. We need to be going up. I can't wait. I'm so excited. We've had incredible blessings every time we've gone. We've had incredible things happen. We've made incredible connections, divine appointments every single time. Each trip has been special. Each trip has been different. We go different places. A lot of times we let the Father lead and guide. We have a general idea, but then we let the Father lead and guide. And I am so excited. And I pray for you. I hope to see some of you in Jerusalem one of these times. Got Paul Wilbur in my head. Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways. Isaiah chapter 2. All right. I love you guys. For King and Kingdom, I bid you shalom.